So I've never given a talk before, but multiple motivation coming from different people here that said I should get up. I have always been an artistic person. Tried to paint, tried to draw, didn't meet with a whole lot of success. Like it was decent, but it was work. It was like not the same like passionate process that comes out of me making these things. And so I just kind of wanted to tell people that story. And if you guys ever have like that moment where you're trying to figure out what you can do, with that fire, about finding the right tool and going that direction. So I got a job at a fabrication lab, which you guys know about, and wanted to learn about it, but the process just wasn't fast enough, and eventually went out and just bought a laser, and that was April of last year. So the stuff that you guys see over at that table has all happened within 1 year. So it was about finding that niche, that that piece of or that tool that fit my my style and my talent and the way that I saw things. And yeah, I mean, ask questions anytime, by the way, because again, this is completely unscripted.
I'm just gonna pull your website up.
You know what? I just tried to load the website, and GoDaddy gave me some weird error. So if it doesn't work, then but you can go to the Facebook page maybe.
Okay.
But essentially, a lot of people that own laser cutters out there don't play with them in more than just the two dimensions. Like they don't think about creating something that is three-dimensional or going outside the box of just cutting like a template for something. So when I got this machine, I just kind of sat out there every night for months on end and experimented with different materials, wood becoming my favorite. And this is where I ended up. So anybody in here an artist? Yeah? What do you do?
Stained glass and knitting.
Stained glass and knitting? Okay.
I've used a laser cutter to etch like a flatbed. I experimented with Ian, who's here.
Right, Ian Bacons, yeah.
We experimented with glass, colored glass, clear glass, etching.
Yeah. Any luck with it?
Yeah. I mean, it was fine. We did dates and
Nice.
letters and things, no art.
Well, a good example of that is like one of the things that I started playing with right away was actually etching mirrors. And found that you can actually take things like plexiglass mirror and etch them from behind, and then put things behind that, like lighting or a photoluminescent material, and create multiple layered pieces. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, even the thinnest line shows up as like this little Tron line on whatever you're creating. But yeah, I mean, again, all of these years I had these sketches and these drawings and all these things that I created, and never really came full circle to something that I felt was a finished product. And then I realized I was a builder. And it was the best revelation ever, and it's all I've eat, slept, and breathed for like the last year. And ever-present wife is like supported the habit, paid the rent, and allowed me to do this as a business. But the machines aren't that difficult to learn. So I mean, that's another thing. It was very difficult to get somebody to show me how. And a lot of the different devices out there, whether it be CNC machines, laser cutters, 3D printers, it's difficult to find people that are willing to teach you. So I just wanted to put it out there for people to ask questions and to inquire.
Do you live locally?
I do. I live in Culver City, and and I'm always willing to show people what I do, and to show them how I do things. Like this piece right here, for instance. I wanted to create something three-dimensional, but I also wanted to be able to create something that if I needed to ship it from A to B, get it to a gallery somewhere, I could flat pack it. So that piece has a single bolt that goes through the center of it, and everything is held together with tension. But thinking about it, so a little engineering helps. But I mean, think about old school, the cut pieces of cardboard that you fit together into a puzzle, or like origami. I mean, if you can think about things in 3 dimensions and break it down to the 2 dimensions, then it's a magical machine to have. Anybody else?
What material is it?
That is made out of Baltic birch, like plywood, 3-layer. A lot of the jewelry that you saw out there is made out of like cherry and walnuts. There's still a lot of finishing work that you have to do. That's another important thing. Like if you're gonna laser, yes, you're wearing, one of my pieces. But that's the other thing too. Is I think it's important if you do get a machine, whether it be CNC or a 3D printer, or Les over here is this 3D printing guru. But is to apply other things to the process. Don't make it a one-step process. Don't think that you can buy a laser cutter and then turn around and just fork out product. Best thing to do is to figure out how you can make that a part in a process to slap all these different ideas together. There's a piece out there that has lighting in it, and I took multiple layers of plexiglass and etched different patterns on each layer, stacked them, and then put that behind a wood etch and like lit the edges to create like this really cool, pattern that lights up. Oh yes, this guy right here. It's not going to do it any justice though. Are you guys going to be here tonight? Okay, so when it's a little darker in that room, go see it at night, because when you walk past it, the images actually kind of move and follow you. Anybody else?
Talk a little about how the experience of teaching yourself all of this, how you just your personal research and experience. You are a very, very self-motivated, self-teaching.
And I bought a Chinese machine, which is like, it's very interesting. Like you go through and you read the manuals on these things. And I was reading one that was talking about how to clean the lenses, and their translation for cotton was tampons. And it was like, make sure, and the translation like literally said, make sure that a licensed technician, uses a tampon to clean the lens. So there's not a whole lot of help. That's and I think that's one of the problems that people run into when they want to learn a new skill like this. Is there's not a whole lot of help out there to figure it out. I know that people like Dougie are trying to put together organizations that I was talking to Les about the cross-campus thing, about having workshops and classes. But I think that one of our biggest hang-ups on being able to spread this type of talent is that nobody finds a whole lot of assistance with it. So my process was, it was a little harrowing in the beginning, because I just couldn't really find information, and when I did find somebody who knew something about it, oftentimes either they didn't want to share or their machine was different. And from one machine to the next, they're all temperamental, they're all weird. Sometimes they do something that you can't figure out why it's doing that. And it could be a single nut on the far corner or bottom of the machine is loose, and that's causing the thing to vibrate and create a squiggle, at every corner that it goes by. Materials have a huge effect on it. Like, I can cut the same piece of wood on Monday and then do it again on Tuesday, and it won't cut all the way through. And it's just, humidity. Something like that might affect the material. Temperature, I think, affects it. Like if I put a piece of plexiglass in there on a cold night, it might, re-solidify faster, and so I get a different edge finish on it. So that's all something that you kind of have to learn, by experimentation. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it just, sometimes you have to add that extra finishing level. Like the lamps that are out here, the really pretty white pearlescent one that's hanging in the lobby out there. Every little edge on that lattice work filigree cut had burn marks, and I had to go through the Dremel and actually polish every single edge. Yeah, it was like a 6-hour process, sitting there with a Dremel, like trying not to breathe in the fumes because it burns the material while you're doing it. But it's, it was an unplanned little tidbit that I got in there, and I just had to deal with it. So having those finishing skills is definitely a must. You're saying what else? Like,
how do you feel about starting your business? What does it make you like?
Stressed out. Doesn't make a whole lot of money yet, but I'm focusing mainly on the art. So I mean, art is a thing that it's difficult to move. It's just a patience thing. It's getting the right pieces into the right hands out there. I had my first art dealer come over to my house and do like a private showing recently, and I mean, the only thing I can say is patience. Don't, like, every piece that you have, there's somebody out there that's gonna love it. So don't scrap something or give up on it just because nobody's paying attention to this piece right now. And it's it does grow. The other thing about going through the learning process as well is that you got to do it constantly. If you get derailed, or if I'm fortunate enough that I was able to quit my job and basically do this full time. But if you're constantly engaged in it, you're constantly like trying to experiment, the process moves pretty fast. Like I said, it only took me a year to get to this point. However, if you're just going to like a maker lab or something like that. So I guess the easier way to say it is buy one. don't necessarily. I mean, maker labs are great if you just want access to like other machines other than what you have. But having one in hand is gonna make a huge difference. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
Where does your inspiration come from?
Wow, all over the place. Nature, geometry, science. I'm one of those people that I get distracted. I have heavy ADD, as you well know. I get distracted, and maybe I'm just sitting there, and I'll see something, a shape of something in nature, or I'll see a weird concrete sphere on the ground while we're walking around, and something will pop into my head, and I have to write it down or sketch it, otherwise I lose it. But many times, like, something starts and it evolves from there. The initial first thing that I create is not quite what I imagined. This piece right here, oddly enough, started out flat. And then I went back to the little candle holder I had, which was slot and groove, and decided that I could try to do that on a wall. And the first time I did it, I put it up on the wall, and all the petals fell down. Which is why each plate holding the petals open was created. And a lot of that, I think somebody with an engineering degree would be fantastic at this. I have no engineering background or anything along those lines, so all of this was kind of like experimentation and getting lucky and going, oh my God, this works. But yeah, the inspiration everywhere. I mean, and each piece that I make becomes an inspiration to figure out what else I can do. Another thing is for you artists out there, I mean, don't get stuck doing the same thing just because it's popular. Like, experiment, see what else you can make. Work 3 different directions. Like, I've got jewelry out there, I've got woodblock etching, which might be the most boring of the things, but some people really love it, yeah. Anybody else? We have 3 minutes?
Kind of a weird question,
Yeah.
but I like wood. So my question is...
Yeah, I do too, it's my favorite.
What's your favorite... Okay, so what's the easiest wood to work with this? What's the hardest wood to work with? But what's your favorite regardless of whether or not it's difficult for laser cutting? What's your favorite wood?
That's a multifaceted answer there. So if you're just trying to build something like, say, these latticework towers right here, and those were for a Mercedes event where they were actually centerpieces that had manzanita trees on top and all this stuff hanging down from them. But I needed to do something on a budget that was these large-scale pieces and do like 40 of them. So I used the underlayment that they use for putting under tile and under linoleum. It's like a moisture-resistant like plywood, but it's like $6 or $7 a sheet for a 4x4 sheet at Home Depot. When you get into like the jewelry, hardwoods. As Dougie, I was making bird medallions last year, and one of the first things I learned, before was that everybody was making them out of MDF, and I was like, okay, so I'll make mine out of MDF. They expand when they get, MDF. Yeah, it's medium density fiberboard, right? That's what it stands for. But yeah, they absorb water like a sponge. Hardwood, if you seal it and you finish it really well, you sand it down, put a nice layer of like lacquer on it. It tends to stand up. Like, I can get into a shower with this and
What's your favorite hardwood then?
favorite hardwood, I would say walnut and cherry, and then beyond that, mahogany I really like, but it's difficult when you have really detailed pieces because it's got a whole lot of texture and grain to it. And then for things like this, birch. However, I was actually just educated by somebody recently because I haven't played with the actual solid birch. I've only been playing with the ply. Because again, I'm new to this, so feel free to educate me as well. But the plywood apparently holds up better as far as staying flat and not warping, whereas the solid will curl against the grain, I think, from the heat affecting it. Which could be, since it's always one direction, could be interesting with these flowers. If I can cut them all the right direction, I can get the petals to curl. But there's some interesting things too on the woodworking front with using steam and stuff. Learned from your uncle, or makes sleds, like dog sleds, and he uses steam to bend these pieces of wood. So you can't do it with plywood because of the glue. But if you like wood and you're working with something that is a hardwood or even softer like that doesn't have the glue in there, you can use steam and other things after you laser cut it to really make it look cool. So that will come soon. Follow the website. And anybody else? I think I have like a minute left.
Have you played with any lighting on this piece?
I have, but mostly like just inserted them in there. Again, it's been a process, and that piece in particular is, for lack of a better word, it's kind of a bitch to maintain, move, do other things with it. I just recently, because the first rendition of it, these were glued open because I didn't have a plate big enough to put pressure on those. So I just redesigned it just for this event. But at some point, what I want to do is put rings of kind of a opaque plexi hidden behind each one and put a ring of lights in there. Awesome. And DMX control them. But I need somebody who's really good with the lighting because, yeah, I can solder a power plug to it, but that's about it.
How long did that piece take?
The drawing or the cutting?
Everything, in totality.
The drawing of the patterns probably took me a couple weeks of doing a couple hours here and there, like every day. The cutting of the whole thing was probably 3 or 4 days. The cutting takes a long time. Like if I were to cut just these petals, like these 8 big ones, it's probably 2.5 hours. You know, and it's and then again, when you're working with things with glue in them, if you ever do play with a laser, glue is inconsistent. So you might cut a piece, and 1 inch of it on the corner won't go through at all, and you'll do a second pass, and it still won't go through it. So X-Acto knives.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. How'd I do?
Awesome.